It's just, when you mention creativity, that's even bigger for me than music. But when it comes to music, this is where that's me. I'm going to be creative for the rest of my life. And I
Right.
know a lot of people can relate. And also a lot of people are scared to be creative. And what I always say is just allow yourself to be creative. Allow yourself to experiment.
Right.
Uh, what can happen? Nothing bad can happen. You can only be you at the end of the day,
It's true.
eventually, if nothing else.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to connect with us through our social media channels. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. And then if you head over to YouTube, then you can easily subscribe to our channel. All you've got to do is tap that bell down below, and you're instantly connected to all things audacious related. So please like, follow, subscribe, tell a friend, and let's keep this conversation moving going. Now, each and every single one of us has the right to express themselves however they wish. While it isn't always the easiest thing to do, particularly in the face of adversity, it's extremely important that we be exactly who we are and don't let any outside or exterior forces change us from being that person. Bran Katanec is today's guest on this episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. Bran is an empowerment coach. He's an author, a musician, as well as a podcast host himself of the podcast Be Energy Aware. And his podcast is really centered around the power of our personal energy, and he really promotes how we can and should be more of it. Good solid chat with Bran. I think you really appreciate it because he takes us into that dive about expression and how important that is and how the different ways we can do so. For example, he chooses music as his medium to express himself. So like I said, it is absolutely a great chat. And so without any further ado, I'm going to give you an opportunity to hear my conversation with Bran Katanec. Enjoy. Hey, Bran, thank you for joining me today here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Thanks so much, Ollie. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I listen. We were just talking before we actually press record, and how much we enjoy conversations and understanding and learning, and so that's probably my favorite part of what I do, and I love that, and I'm great to hear and learn from you and understand from you, and sort of get into your world. And I know you're a personal empowerment coach, and there's some work around that we definitely have to talk on. Energy is a big thing to you. I know that as well. But let's start at music. You've got a musical background. And for a guy who has probably got a little bit of musical talent in him, I used to play the trombone for a little while, and, the big bass, that big bass when I used to, so I mean, I can read notes a little bit, I guess, but I wasn't really, it just didn't hold me because reading notes was never my thing, I guess. I struggled for a little bit, and I just went on to do other stuff. But I'd love to hear you talk about sort of your musical background as a starting point, because I do think there's some great benefits to those who are in the field of music.
Well, honestly, it's good that you asked me this because, I didn't expect I was going to end up being a musician. Music came into my life at a really, really difficult time because I consciously knew when I was 15 years old that I needed something positive to hang on to make life worth living at that time, because so many not so good things were happening. And so I needed something. And so when I started playing guitar, that's when everything changed for me. And it really saved my life.
Talk about sort of like how far, how advanced you are in the field of music, because you're really making music. It's not like you're doing air band, rock band, karaoke kind of thing. You're really out there.
Well, yeah, I'm really out there. I'm recording, I'm producing music and putting it out there. Basically, since age 15, almost. I started when I was 15,
Hmm.
more seriously, and then when I was 16, 17, I was already recording music in studios and making my own music. So
Wow.
creativity was very important to me from day one. And this is something I got earlier on in my childhood, but like to be so free, to feel so free, and to have an inquisitive mind, to be
Yes.
wanting to explore and create. It was just, when you mentioned creativity, that's even bigger for me than music. But when it comes to music, this is where that's me. I'm going to be creative for the rest of my life. And I
Right.
know a lot of people can relate. And also, a lot of people are scared to be creative. And what I always say is just allow yourself to be creative, allow yourself to experiment.
Right.
Uh, what can happen? Nothing bad can happen. You can only be you at the end of the day,
It's true.
eventually, if nothing else.
It's true. Well, and I mean, it's a couple points that you touched on, but certainly the fear of being creative. I think a big part of that is, and look, oftentimes people are by themselves, in their space, and their creativity is flying, but it's when they to expose it to other people, right? And what others, and perhaps it's a judgment of others, or the criticism of others, or something from them that makes them think, okay, maybe I'll take that little light and I won't make shine as bright as I should, right? And that creative spark that's in us, I think it's important, and it's very much a tie in us being audacious, because this is part of that. But it's very much important for us to let that light shine and let others see it, because we have no idea the kind of impact we can have.
Exactly. And this is, the message of creativity and the message of empowerment that goes with it.
Yes.
Just the very act of creating enables us to heal. And then by being creative, we also get to express ourselves. We get to be ourselves. And that's a big, big thing. And so a lot of people, especially if they've had a background of, someone not being supportive of what they wanted to do, and you shouldn't do this, you're supposed to do that, and so on, then there's going to be that fear and that lack of initiative to
Right.
express what they feel they need to express. But it's always there. Everyone has this, the that spark in them, and the wish to create and the wish to be expressive.
I'm hearing loud and clear. Don't hold back. Is what I'm hearing from you. Loud and clear.
Exactly. No matter what, you have the right to express. You have the right to be creative. You have the right to be you, fully
Got
you.
you. Got you. You definitely. So oftentimes when at the end of these conversations, I kind of go when I think about what's that one thing I take from it. Already, the right to be you is so important, and we all should be that individual who we're supposed to be. So, Marty, you already got me thinking, Brand. So thanks for that. I want to talk about the empowerment and the empowerment work that you do as a coach. Help us understand the sort of philosophy around personal empowerment and why that's important to us as individuals.
Well, it really has to start somewhere. A lot of
Yeah.
people, even those that think they're living an empowered life, there's always an area of our life where we're not as empowered as we would like to be. So I don't like to keep it general. So for me, what I would like to say, it starts with having a good relationship with yourself. And so this is where when I realized that I had to really take a step back and have a look at my life and have a look at how I want my life to be on a daily basis. When I
Right.
get up, what do I want to do first? How do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And so it led me to kind of, well, you know, make some, ask myself some questions and then get some answers out there for myself, out on
Right.
the table where I can see them, and then basically prioritize. So my priority is always to have enough time for myself,
Hmm.
just to be with myself, not doing anything. And this is
Yep.
really what's the hardest thing for most people is just, you know, being with yourself in silence,
Yeah.
because that's when stuff shows. And so, you know, if I would say if someone would ask me what's the ultimate thing to do, this would be the ultimate thing to do to me, you know, on a daily basis, because not many people can do it. But if you can make yourself do it for at least a couple of minutes a day, you're going to make huge headway. You know, I mean, you're going to make huge progress, because what's wrong with having a good relationship with ourselves? What can be wrong with,
Right.
you know, taking care of ourselves first, so then we have a lot of love to give to the world.
Yeah, you know, I love the idea of making time for ourselves first, and especially when you're maybe an individual, you care for others, you're the head of the household, whatever you know your situation is, that you often are putting other people in front of you, and you're putting yourself last oftentimes. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're not good to yourself, what really good are you on other people, right?
No, no, no. It's just exactly the opposite happens, because you're not able to be there for them, to be present with yourself even, and then for them when they need you, because you waste your energy on things that are not important, that are unnecessary, and may be damaging for you. So you're not able to be fully functional.
Right. Um, the other point that you made around the difficulty that people have with themselves, and you made a really good point, because nothing, you know, you can't, everything's out in the open, you can't hide anything. I wonder if you sort of could talk about some other issues, or what other things you think why being with people, you know, being by themselves is challenging.
Well, you know, to be with ourselves, we really need to, you know, the truth comes out,
Right.
and it's most times it's going to be unpleasant. So whether people run away from the unpleasantness of it, or they have certain, you know, again, it's just weaknesses. And of course, we need to know where it comes from. It comes from our upbringing, and where we grew up, and how we grew up. And so all those things that were happening. So we need to take that into account. No one really is a bad person. I mean, they
Right.
just have had difficulties in the past. And now, if they just sit down with themselves and just say, well, you know, just some acknowledgement. This is what it is.
Right.
You know, what can we do? Like, this is how it happened. This is what happened. And now these are the consequences. This is something I have to live with. But most people don't realize that you don't have to live with them. You don't have to continue living with them. And so this is where I come in and just kind of shine a little bit of light on that they have options and they have choices. They don't have to continue carrying the heavy burden on their shoulders,
Right.
being unkind to themselves and the people around them, and so on. So it's just a little bit of kind of asking the right questions and saying the right things at the right time.
What I find really interesting is the connection to all these things. So, and so let's say, for example, there is something from your childhood, and how that carries all the way through, and it permeates itself through your actions, how you treat people, what you think of yourself, and in some cases, you know, people don't know, but a lot of times they do. And to your point, they don't want to avoid, they don't want to confront it, and that's why they don't stay by themselves. They preoccupy themselves with other things. They keep busy. They don't, you know, they don't sit still, that kind of a thing, because they don't want the opportunity to face the, you know, the issues or demons of their past, if you will.
Yes, and again, there are many reasons for that, and we'll leave people reasons for that alone. You know,
Yep.
we have all have a choice. If they want to say like that, that's fine. But you know, I just like to say that, you know, it doesn't have to be like that, and we have options.
Sure. Nope, got it. Yep. Choice is a big thing in this, right? And absolutely, it's important that we recognize that that choice always rests with us, right? And it starts with us first. And
Yeah.
so, whether we choose to or not to, and I think you know, you're the fact that, you know, we're not applying judgments to why people make those choices is really, really important. Because, you know, if this is a decision I've made that choice because it matters to me, right? And so I shouldn't be able to, you know, I shouldn't be judged because I did something that I feel, regardless, rightly or wrongly, it's still my choice. So,
Exactly. And this is what I've been telling to people. You know, this is, you know, where what you just mentioned, Only, you know, you just mentioned that, you know, preoccupied themselves with different things and with different people they create distractions, and
Mm.
this is again one way to avoid. But anyway, let's leave that alone. Like
Yes.
let's just leave it at people have a choice,
Yes.
and if as long as they've made their own choice, not one thing I do mind is when someone makes a choice because someone else said they should make it.
Yeah. That's
So
tough.
exactly what you said to your point now, as long as you make your own choice, even if it's a mistake or if even if it's wrong, as long as it's yours and yours alone,
Yep.
you're good. You're good.
Yes.
Everything's
Yes.
fine. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Um, Talking about choices, and you made an important choice at a young age to not let sort of your past sort of carry over into your world, into your adult world. I want to sort of talk about that, your upbringing, because I know you use that as strong messages from your, coming back from your home country, having to deal with war and different forms of adversity. I wonder if you could touch on that, Bran.
I mean, which aspect do you want me to touch? Do you want to be specific or?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think from what I understand, I didn't read your full story, but I know enough to know that it's powerful and it's been impactful, and that's what you've sort of used as a springboard forward.
Well, it's funny you're mentioning it in this way because to me it never seemed like we talk about audacious living
Yep.
and making bold choices and bold risks, so to speak. And I did make those. Yes, I have, and I'm still making them on a daily basis. But it comes from within. That's the thing, because once you have something important in your life that you cherish so much, like I did guitar and music, and that creativity that I've discovered that I have,
Yes.
then you want to protect it at any cost. And so what I had to do to protect it, I had to make those choices. I had to make the choice to move away from my hometown, away from my country, to a different continent. I had to change my surroundings because I realized that this what I want to do. The environment there was not really supportive of that, and that led to many things. But people think they see you make decisions, and they see, well, I wish I was like that. I wish I was able to make those bold and brave decisions. I just say, well, you just need to find something that you care so much about.
Yeah.
And that's the key. To me, that was always the key, and that's the key why I'm still here and living the life that I'm living.
Yeah, I love that point because that reason, that thing that you're after, whether it's a goal or some people refer to it as a purpose or your why, right? It's like, that's what you're after, and so when you're making those choices, you're not necessarily looking at, well, what's in front of you. There's an obstacle and I need to get past it. You're looking bigger because you're saying the big picture is I need to get to point A. But in order to get to point A, I've got to make these steps. So you don't think about those steps. You're thinking about point A.
Exactly. And so I never lost sight of the goal, and it does make you go through things more easily, much more easily, and with a lot more confidence because this is just you just need to move forward and do a little bit of tweaking here and there, and it really comes down to that in a nutshell. I'm not able to put it any differently because
Right.
a man or a woman that who has a goal, they're just going to continue, and if they have a strong enough why, nothing can stop you really. So I like to encourage and inspire people to find that something for them
Right.
that will be the driving force for their life in a really good way.
Yeah, there are people that will be listening, and and I know we're talking about that why, and run an obstacle, focus on your why. There are people that will still say, yeah, but challenges are challenges, obstacles are obstacles. They're still tough, right? And so, so yes, I do have a big picture, but at the end of the day, this thing is still hard, and so I don't want to gloss over it and make it sound like, oh, it's just that easy. Get your why and you're good. You still have that day-to-day stuff, and I'm wondering if you can sort of talk about how we manage day-to-day obstacles, the best way to.
That's great. I think I love talking about it because one thing to realize is, when you move forward like that in life, and
Hmm.
you come across challenges, there's no way, when I remember my starting point where I started from.
Hmm.
So with any challenge, I needed to make adjustments. So I needed to
Right.
make changes. And once I got conscious enough to the point of, really being able to do good things for myself on a daily basis, so that I'm able to heal enough from
Right.
from the childhood traumas, so they're not an obstacle. And when you start doing that, when you start addressing the issues, facing them head on, and changing things that you need to change, knowingly, very consciously, then there's less and less things to tweak and change. And the obstacles, they don't seem like that big of a deal, because you
Right.
know what they're about. They're about basically you changing, you just letting go of the past. If I can put it shortly, yeah, I can, yeah, I think that's it. Letting go of the past would be the words. Yeah.
Hmm. Uh, I also I've always been a big fan, and look, and I know I do it within my own life, where something will happen, maybe a not good thing will happen, and I'll start to sort of look at, okay, so what does this really mean? Where is it sending me? What am I trying to get out of this thing? Right? I often talk about obstacles sort of being a stepping stone, right? Or problems or challenges being stepping stones. And so what is this? It's funny. I think I go in this analysis mode, right? I get really deep into it. And I'm like, well, I've got my magnifying on. I'm looking for the clues to figure out, right? And sometimes I spend more time doing that than figuring out the
Yeah.
problem, right? But the
Yeah.
point being is that I am looking and I am
Yeah.
trying to figure it out, because I truly believe that everything is connected to something, right? And so for me, it's what is that something?
Well, like you said, only, it's a stepping stone. Every challenge is a stepping stone. I like to call them, where I'm at in my life. Every challenge is almost like a jumping point, jumping board that you jump off from. Like it
Yes.
just catapults you up there, and you just go across those obstacles so easily, because you know why they're there. And so it's just first of all acknowledging what that is, and it's not there to stop you. It's there to propel you forward. So if you
Yes.
can see it like that and find a reason why, and look at yourself and see what adjustments you need to make, I
Yep.
mean, in a good way,
Yep.
then you're gonna definitely find out.
Yep, yep, yep. Recently I had a friend go through. He's going through a challenging period, and I was able and able to help him through that, because I had gone through something similar, right? And where to his his benefit. He had me to support him. Well, I didn't have him. I had to figure it out myself. And so, and I eventually got through. And so I often remind him, like, hey, look, man, I got to the other side. You can too, right? And so for me, the other part, when we get in these challenges, I get really charged and excited about, okay, how do I problem solve this? Because when I problem solve it, I know I can use it. I can use it in profound ways. Whether I can tell a story to someone else, or share it on my podcast, or help someone else get through their own challenges. But now I sort of feel like, Brand, as crazy as it may sound, sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm looking for the next challenge. Like, okay, what is it? What you got? Like, come on, because it charges me to find a way through it. And so for me, that kind of goes back to the lessons that we can take from our circumstances, and then what do we do with those lessons afterwards?
Exactly, and it really comes down to that. And I have nothing to add to what you just said. Really, that's what it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely appreciate that. You again, before we press record, you said something that really, I certainly appreciated. You sort of talked about the importance of energy, something that I connect with as well. And you talked about you connect with energy. I want you to sort of can talk about the importance of why that connection is so relevant and significant to us.
Well, that's a really wow, this is a big question. And times are just really quite right to start really talking more deeply about these things and
Hmm.
bring them forward, because everyone, okay, I'll say it like this. Most people are aware of energy on a daily basis. It's
Yep.
just it hasn't been talked about enough or as much as it could be. And so we come back when we talk about this, we come back to our daily choices.
Okay.
So we get up in the morning, and how can we make better choices on a daily basis? Well, we just I like to say follow the energy.
Hmm.
And so if we are aware of these things, and how it started for me, it really started with meditation.
Okay.
And so, I need to give people some reference points. So, I always say, go to meditation. This is where you get to spend time with yourself.
Yep.
This is where you get to learn about the energy, about your energy, about the energy of your environment. You actually become so attuned to every little change in your environment with time when you start paying attention to it. And what that brings is the ability to make better decisions on a daily basis.
Mm.
Let me give you an example. You have to go buy groceries. You take your car, you sit in your car, you get in
Yep.
your car,
Hmm.
and you can use your GPS,
Sure.
or you can use your intuition to get
Yes.
to the store.
Yes.
GPS is up to date even with traffic conditions most times and so on.
Yes.
But are you going to take that street or this street for whatever reason? You can avoid accidents. You can avoid road work, blockages. You can avoid, a lot of things that you wouldn't normally avoid if you just, and this is not about being attuned to everything all the time or uh, being paranoid almost, oh,
Right.
I need to
Right.
pay attention to this all the time. No, it's not about that.
What does that
I mean,
butterfly mean? Oh my gosh!
yeah,
Right.
like what kind of a life would that be? Like, so I mean, only for practical purposes. Like
Right.
if I was in your shoes, I get into the car and I'm like, okay, what is the best way to get me there? What's the safest way to get me there? What's the easiest way? What's the most comfortable? What's the most enjoyable way to get me
Right.
there? So
Right.
I ask those questions and then I let the energy guide me. And when we are spend so much time with ourselves in meditation and just being with ourselves and paying
Yes.
attention to these things, we actually can clearly tell as soon as we ask those questions, well, I need to go left. And there are no questions about it. We know. And this is what I like to talk to people about because everyone knows, but for some reason they're not using the knowledge
Yes.
or they're scared to use it or they're not feeling comfortable enough to even talk about it. But I say talk about it because let me give just one more example. Everyone knows
Hmm.
when an angry person walks into the room.
Sure.
Right? Like, how can you tell? You can feel the energy. You can
Yes.
feel the anger, the agitation, this type of negativity that shows up. And when a bright, happy person comes in full of joy, like everyone can tell without looking, without you maybe with your back turned to them, you're gonna feel something. And so this is what I like to remind people to pay more attention to because it's there. It's just, I think these are the right times to start talking more about it and to pay attention because it leads to a much better life, to much better
Yeah.
decisions. I mean, the possibilities are endless, really.
Yeah, no, I very much love the illustration of a person walking into the room because it does say a lot, and I mean even in myself personally, I've found situations where maybe my thoughts are preoccupied and because I'm so deep in thought, my face is giving off another message, and people say, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine." Right, but they're reacting to what they feel and what they think, and actually, that was always good for me it's actually good to hear that because it was a reminder of how we can impact the space with our energy, right? And so having got those experiences a few times, it's forced me to be mindful of the example when you walk into a room, how do you present yourself and what energy are you giving off and how are people perceiving you, right? So it's very good because again, we all can have an impact, whether we think we're that, we've got that audacious personality that's really out there or not, right? We all have an impact on our environment.
Exactly, exactly. It really makes a difference. Yes.
Yep. The other part I like when you reference meditation, because earlier we talked about the silence and what people don't want to see in the silence, but I think as well too, the silence also can be enlightening to us at the same time too, and through that meditation process. I know earlier we talked about what people don't want to see, but there is some the benefits as well, and what you give off and what you radiate, and the word radiate really stands out strong for me because it's the energy that you radiate, the energy that you give, and the best part about it is what that does to other people, Brad, the impact we can have on others.
Exactly. Once you sit down with yourself in silence, you have a chance and an opportunity to clear out all the noise.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you can pay attention and follow these subtle, very subtle things that you wouldn't be able to if you were if your mind was crowded with things,
Exactly.
if you were so emotional, you need to come down. You need to let go of all those distractions and just create that peace so you can actually pay attention to the things that matter and make
Yes.
those better decisions and have that life that you may be dreaming of right now.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. I think the conversation of intuition is a really good one as well. I'm also glad you touched on that. And we all have it. We all have it. And again, that GPS versus trusting your gut sort of thing is really what we're talking about here. And the thing that that's resonated with me when it comes to the conversation of intuition is our intuition, it doesn't want bad things for us. It wants us to, it wants to protect us. It wants to guide us. It wants to help us. But despite that, sometimes we still won't listen, right? And so that's always the interesting thing. So I think if we can embrace that listening to tuition can be a good thing, I think we're beneficial to more people.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I think we absolutely have to tell you. You're a podcaster as well, Brad, and so I've got a natural affinity to podcasters because I know how much work is involved in preparing and setting up and delivering and all the behind the scenes stuff that people may not always recognize. So because of that, I'm giving you an opportunity to tell us all about your podcast and what you focus on and what you what you promote.
Again, thank you for that question, Only. I really appreciate it. So it's again, it comes down to meditation, self-healing, expression, creativity, living your dream, making those better decisions, paying attention to energy in daily life so that you can make those decisions. And it's all there in the podcast. It's already over 100 episodes. And I
Congrats.
leave no stones unturned. I'll say that. So if you, I believe if anyone comes across the podcast and gets curious, there's something there for everyone,
Yes.
and I guarantee you it's going to benefit you in some way. And I welcome everyone, and I love getting feedback. And again, it's fairly easy for me to do. It's a lot of work, but I've always, because of being a musician and I'm good with audio, and so I can easily record and produce
Nice. Nice.
all of
Nice.
the episodes. I'm really enjoying it, and for as long as I have something to say, I'm going to continue to do the
Absolutely.
podcast
I
for
love
sure.
it. I love it. I love it. As long as you have something to say. You talk about, no stone unturned, and, definitely a topic I want to get into. I would be remiss if we didn't have the topic about authenticity and the importance of people being true to themselves. I think that's an important foundational aspect of certainly how I live my life and how I operate, how I like to present myself. I think that one of the major benefits. Well, there's a couple benefits because we get to be true to ourselves and live the person we're supposed to be and live the life we're supposed to be. But the other benefit of that is others can see it. And I think, I believe, why I don't have any metrics or numbers or data to support this, but I certainly believe that when we can be who we truly are, that will encourage others to do the same as well.
I absolutely agree, 100%. Yeah. And yeah, I don't have anything. You put it so well.
I love it.
Nothing to add to
As I
that.
love the pats on the back, confidence is important, right? So you give me a lot, Brad. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, well, you're welcome, of course.
That's amazing.
I
But
just want to mention the name of the podcast. So it's Be Energy Where. One person one time told me, if I know anything about you, Bran, there are a couple of things you're obsessed about, and one of them is energy. And
Yes.
so it's be energy aware, and it's just one B, letter B, and then energy aware. And then
Yeah.
that's the website as well, .com,
Gotcha.
beenergyaware.com. So feel free to check it out and get in touch. I love hearing from people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing. Look, Brad. First, I think it's awesome that you spent some time here, and I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad we had this conversation. I think the piece around energy is I love. I think there's great value in that, and just again, it for me just goes back to the impact piece, right? You know, the manner in which we can impact others, and it could be and it can be so profound, but it can be done so innocently, because all we're doing is just being who we're supposed to be, and that's that. But again, the profound impact is what I just absolutely love.
Yep, absolutely agree again. Beautiful. Yes.
Very good. Well, listen, I appreciate this, Brand. Thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate your message of living, encouraging people to live courageously and living their best lives and going out in the world and being the person they're supposed to be are all really, really important and key messages. And I'm glad you're doing your part by sharing them.
Thank you so much, Only. Thank you as well. Thank you so much.
Back we are here on the podcast. I really want to thank Bran again for being here and sharing his thoughts around empowerment and expression of ourselves. I really appreciated hearing about his love for music and the importance of creativity and how we all can be aware of our own personal energy. As again, I encourage you to check out his podcast, Be Energy Aware. I'll make sure that the appropriate links are in the show notes. You absolutely can go head over and check him out. So again, Bran, thank you so much. When I reflect on our conversation with Bran, he really left us with a lot of great points. But if there's just one thing that I take from my chat with him, it would be this. Each and every single one of us has a right to be who we are, and we also have the right to express ourselves in any manner we see fit. The need for self-expression is an important part of our lives, and when we don't express ourselves, we repress the important parts of who we are, and we can potentially cause ourselves considerable struggle and lasting mental and emotional pain. We all have our own individual hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And if it's our desire to go after those things, it's completely our prerogative to do so. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com, and all you've got to do is enter in your email address and you'll be alerted every time there's brand new content that comes out. We've sadly reached the end of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, and I send my thanks and appreciation to all our lovers of Audacious's fantastic support, and I really, really appreciate that you help keep us going. And I would also encourage you, if you are checking out the podcast on your favorite podcast and listening platform, that you leave a show comment, you rate it, give us 5-star ratings. That would be absolutely fantastic and so much appreciated. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, and show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.